Well, it's the day that President Trump arrives in the UK for his second state visit. And of course, he's the head of an administration who have expressed some very grave concerns about free speech in the United Kingdom. Now, this debate slowly had been going on for the last few years with the rise of non-crime hate incidents, the police knocking on people's doors. But there was one particular incident that led to an explosion of debate around this issue. It was, of course, what happened in that appalling July day in 2024 when those 3 young girls were murdered in Southport. And within a week, we had the Prime Minister being called two-tier Keir, and we had a series of arrests and imprisonments made. And ever since that time, this debate has been very, very live. On top of that, we have the Online Safety Act that came into being. And I've been involved in this argument myself, both here in the UK and, of course, across in the US. But there's one name that comes out of all of this, and it is, of course, Lucy Connolly. As you well know, she was sentenced to 31 months in prison for a tweet that she put out on that day. What we're going to do here on GB News is find out who is Lucy Connolly. What were her motivations for that tweet? And what was it like to face a 31-month prison sentence for one tweet? Lucy joins me in the studio. There's an awful lot of things have been said about you. Some of them nice, some of them not so nice, as you well know. From what I know, you live in the heart of England, married to Ray, a Conservative councillor, a mother, a childminder over the course of the last 10 years. Have you yourself been, on X, Twitter as it was, have you been very political in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I get involved in the politics and a good old debate on X. I'm known for that. But always never personally attack anybody, always keep to the facts. I accept that, we're never all going to agree, and that's absolutely fine. But, I don't wish harm on anyone that doesn't agree with my opinions and my political opinions, as has been wished on me and yourself. Yeah. And, that's wrong. No,
and I mean, in fact, in your work as a childminder, a Nigerian GP whose daughter you cared for described you as the kindest British person I know. So that was quite a testament. We were all, deeply shocked by what happened on that day. And it was later on in that day at 8:30 in the evening that you put out this particular post. Mass deportations now. Set fire to all the effing hotels full of the bastards for all I care. While you're at it, take the treacherous government and politicians with them. I feel physically sick knowing what these families will now have to endure. If that makes me racist, so be it. And that's what you put out at 8:30 that evening. Clearly, what you said there was intemperate, because what I found interesting was that 3.5 hours later, having taken the dog for a walk, you deleted the message.
Yeah, I did, because as I've said before, it wasn't my finest moment. And I know that was an awful thing to say and it wasn't the right thing to say. So, when I wrote that tweet, I was just so emotionally charged and upset and just, I still to this day can't quite believe that somebody's dropped their children off at a dance class, at a Taylor Swift dance class, and never got to pick them up. And the worst part of it is I do know how that feels. And it's just beyond comprehension that happened, and then you begin to think, am I going to drop my child off at gymnastics next week, etc.? Is some nutter going to go in there and do the same thing? Is it safe? Can I let them go? And all this crazy stuff goes through your head, and it just sent me into, for want of a better word, an overdrive, really. I was just...
And you had lost a child yourself?
I have lost a child. It was just almost like sheer panic, and... I can't even describe it. I was just so, and still am.
You obviously realised a few hours later that what you'd done was wrong.
So, I'd calmed down and I thought to myself, oh gosh, Lucy, you can't take that down. Of which I did.
Which you did.
I didn't need to be prompted to take that down. I didn't need anyone to tell me that was the wrong thing to say.
You knew. Okay.
I didn't engage in any of the comments and I just took it down.
Yeah. And yet, within days, you've been arrested. You're charged with a category A1 offence, an imprisonable offence. The bit that I don't understand is you pleaded guilty.
Yeah.
Were you bullied into that in some way?
Oh, I wouldn't use the word bullied, but they'd remanded me. So when you're remanded, they've got you, so to speak. They refused me bail twice.
Yeah.
The only alternative left was to go to High Court bail at a cost of £10,000. And I honestly believe that they wouldn't have granted me bail. They're making it quite clear that they wanted me remanded and they wanted me, to serve a custodial.
So you could have stayed on remand until the trial came up, which could have been
a year, 2 years. It could. You're looking at the average. People are waiting for a year minimum for a trial at the moment with a backlog in the court. So even had I have gone not guilty and gone to trial, there's a massive chance I'd have been still sitting there today in prison.
On remand. Yeah.
Or I'd have done the same amount of time. Yeah. I just feel like they have me over a barrel, really. And that, as we've discussed before, the legal advice was, you're best to go guilty, you'll get your credit.
And wasn't the fact that you deleted this tweet just a few hours later, wasn't that taken into mitigation at all?
They didn't care. There was lots of mitigating factors. They had lots of previous tweets that they'd been given from my Twitter where I was condoning racism, where I was condoning violence. There was a tweet, because obviously the tweet that I made was made on the day that those children were murdered. Yeah. And obviously the riots didn't start then for probably a good week afterwards. And I tweeted as soon as they started rioting in the Southport, they kicked off in Southport and they were throwing bricks. And I was just like, oh goodness, please stop this. This is not the way. No one's going to listen to you. Obviously, they had that tweet that wasn't taken into consideration.
And it seemed that they really wanted you, because quite remarkable that the head of the Crown Prosecution Special Crime and Counter-Terrorism Unit released a statement saying, during police interview, Lucy Connolly stated she had strong views on immigration, told officers she did not like immigrants, and claimed that children were not safe from them.
Of which I didn't say. And it's not about liking the immigrants, is it? I'm sure most of them are very nice.
So you're saying that what a senior figure in the Crown Prosecution Service said is not true?
It's not true. And I can
prove
that. I stand by that. They've got a transcript of my interview in the police. I gave a full and frank interview, as advised by the solicitor that was there. At no point in the interview did she kick me under the table or stop the interview or anything like that.
31 months you're sentenced to, and we'll come to prison in a minute. Last week, we saw the assassination of Charlie Kirk, somebody who held very strong Christian conservative views, had strong views on abortion, strong views on trans rights, other things like that, which has opened up this massive debate on free speech. And I went to Washington a couple of weeks ago and appeared before the House Judiciary Committee. I wanted you to come with me, but your terms of release wouldn't allow it.
No, I'm on licence conditions which forbid me to leave in the country at the minute, so yeah. So
where do we draw the line, Lucy? Do you think in retrospect that what you said was insightful?
I suppose it could have, it could have been seen as insightful, but then there's no evidence to suggest anyone acted on that. And like I said, it should have been taken into consideration that I did take the tweet down and I was remorseful, and I've never, ever...
See, the funny thing is, it wasn't until Southport that the Prime Minister was called two-tier care. We started talking about two-tier policing, two-tier sentencing.
Well, we see it all the time, don't we? Every day at the minute.
Well, I think we do. Yeah. Because, I had death threats last week on TikTok in particular, to which the police have said that didn't meet the bar of acceptability. We're all over the place, aren't we?
So what does meet the bar then? So me sending one tweet, bearing in mind I'd gone 42 years of my life without ever being in trouble or breaking the law or putting such a tweet on X, or, that instantly hits the bar. But somebody, and after everything that's been going on in the past 12 months in the UK, surely we should all know better than to put out tweets and TikToks like that. So
abuse is fine, it seems to me. So-and-so, we think this about you, that about you. I think you've got to live with that.
Well, it's horrific. It's horrific that anybody would wish harm, just death, harm on you, harm on your family, because they don't agree with your views. I mean,
and that's where your tweet, to be fair, I think did go over the line of what's acceptable. But you recognised that yourself and withdrew it, and there should have been some allowance made for that. Well, it's a debate that's going to go on and on and on. Prison, what's prison like?
Oh, what's prison like? it's like nothing you'll ever experience ever in your life before again. And, you know, like it's interesting. It's very interesting. It's very sad, you know, as I've spoke about, you know, there's a lot of people that shouldn't be in there. And for me, it's changed my opinion on the system, because I was that person that was like, well, you know, they're all in prison. They've been to the courts. They're guilty. They should be in prison. Actually, the reality is very different. You know, I'm talking about the women's estate here. I can't comment on the men's estate because obviously I wasn't there. Really, really sad cases. And you just think, and women are factually going to get longer for the same crime as what a man.
Really?
Absolutely. It's almost like they have this attitude of, well, you're a woman, you're a wife and you're a mother and you should know better. And I see that inside the prison as well, with the way prison officers behave and the way male prison officers behave within a women's prison. And it's like, well, you know, they're men, aren't they? So it's okay. But if it's you, because you're a woman, you know, you should know better. That's what I witnessed. That's what I witnessed in the system. I think the system's very sexist.
Did you see attempts at rehabilitation in prison?
No.
No.
There's no time. There's no money and there's no time. With the best will in the world, you can't recruit enough prison officers at the moment. So they're just keeping the peace and making sure everybody's safe and okay. That's all they've got time to do. And obviously, like with everything else in this gone world mad, there's paperwork for everything, boxes to tick for everything. You know, but I think certainly in Peterborough, it's like the waiting list when you first go in for mental health is like 300-400 on the list, you know.
I take the view that there's about 10% of prisoners commit 50% of the crime, and I think the 3 strikes and you're out thing that America introduced would work. But I do agree that if people go in for a short prison sentence for the first time, they might come out worse than they went in. That's kind of what you're saying. Well,
absolutely, especially on the male side. You know, they send like gang members in and they're just making bigger gang members and almost like joining forces.
Well, Lucy, I mean, we've spent just a quarter of an hour on this, going through your story, and we could talk for hours about it. You seem to be happy and optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, I refuse to be bitter. I'm back with my family. I've got an amazing family, my daughter and my husband, and then my friends and family have been supportive. You know, this, as I've said before, this is not the worst thing I've ever been through in my life. I've been through far worse. And all I can do now, you know, I did my time, and all I can do now is try and, you know, make a positive out of this and push.
So what does Lucy Connolly do next?
Well, as I said, I'd really love to work with you guys on prison reform, because we all know you're getting in next, you know. I think I'm fairly confident that the next party in will be the Reform Party. And, you know, I personally welcome that, because we need some massive change. We can't keep doing the same thing and, expecting a different result. Things aren't working in this country. The prison system definitely isn't working. So we need to have a different, you know, attack at it and fix it. I mean, it can't be fixed overnight. We've got a lot to do, but we can certainly have a good go.
Thank you. Well, folks, that was Lucy Connolly. It is the most extraordinary story, how somebody living a very straightforward, relatively normal life with all its ups and downs is suddenly thrust into a level of fame that she couldn't have even believed of. I just hope and pray that we continue to have this proper debate about free speech, about what is acceptable, about what is not. And I think we're going to have to rethink many of the laws we've got in this country.